he was the person to let the world know that North Korea's leader had a baby girl. Vice Media sponsored his first trip to Pyongyang in 2013, and he's been to North Korea several times on sponsored trips by an online gambling outfit, and most recently a marijuana cryptocurrency company called Potcoin. And with every trip, he's become more and more controversial. During his 14 seasons in the NBA, the former Detroit Pistons and Chicago Bulls player Dennis Rodman accomplished a ton. It was something the once homeless young man living on the streets of Dallas could have never dreamed of. Rodman was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2011, a little over a decade after leaving the league with 5 titles under his belt. This well-deserved honor would have cemented Rodman's status among the basketball greats, but it's what transpired just 2 years following his Hall of Fame induction that captivated the entire world's attention. Suddenly, and shockingly, Rodman began visiting the incredibly secluded nation of North Korea at the invitation of its leader, Kim Jong-un. The original bad boy of basketball had been making a not-so-quiet impact on North Korean relations unintentionally with the US since 2013, traveling to the nation to meet with its controversial leader and massive basketball fan. The 5-time NBA champion rejected the role of foreign emissary, telling reporters straight, "I am not a diplomat." Rodman's first visit to Pyongyang, courtesy of Vice Media, which filmed the athlete's trip to the state to watch an exhibition basketball game featuring several Harlem Globetrotters. Kim Jong-un had spent his childhood years isolated inside his family's compounds to maintain secrecy. He was homeschooled by private tutors, and he was forbidden to play with other children, so he grew up primarily playing with toys and particularly basketball. And in the 90s, when he was sent to Europe for college under a fake name, at that time, Kim was exposed to Western culture, and his fascination with basketball increased, and the Chicago Bulls were on top of the world with legends like Michael Jordan. Kim used to wear a Chicago Bulls Michael Jordan 23 jersey with the sneakers. After this, Kim Jong-un left school and reappeared about a decade later to become the leader of his country after his father passed away. So in 2013, the year Kim Jong-un's country ran the third test of its nuclear weapons program, North Korean officials are said to have rung the front desk of the Chicago Bulls. The team had become an international phenomenon in the 90s due to the unprecedented success and popularity of the star player Michael Jordan. This period has since been immortalized. Officials are reported to have invited Michael Jordan to visit the country, but he declined, as did his fellow teammate Scottie Pippen. However, Dennis Rodman, the Worm, who played power forward for the team, accepted the invitation, believing it to be nothing more than an autograph signing, and not knowing where he was really going. The event was branded basketball diplomacy. Rodman played 3 seasons in the 90s Chicago Bulls team, and Kim Jong-un knew who he was. But Rodman did not know where he was going and casually considered it a normal trip. He said that he was approached to simply play an exhibition game and sign some autographs. He was used to this kind of post-NBA life. His agent Darren Prince also didn't understand the importance of the trip or the difference between North and South Korea. Typical American behavior. Until Rodman's manager, Steve Simon, actually figured out there was something really bizarre going on. He looked at me and goes, "You idiot, that's South Korea. Let me see this contract." So I showed it to him, and it said Pyongyang, North Korea. And he goes, "You cannot send Dennis to North Korea. Do you understand what type of place this is?" No one in Rodman's team knew or understood what they were actually doing, until they already landed in Beijing, and then someone explained the actual scenario, but they still couldn't grasp the situation. "No one informed me about North Korea," Rodman told Yahoo Sports. "I just thought we were going for a basketball game and do autograph stuff. That was it." I was so blind, man. Rodman even tweeted, "Maybe I'll run into the Gangnam Style dude while I'm here. @PsyOppa, #Worm in North Korea." Not knowing that Psy was actually South Korean. After finally landing in Pyongyang, they were greeted by the military with red carpets rolled out the door of the plane. That's when Rodman said he started to understand the difference. Rodman was supposed to play the exhibition match, but he changed his mind. He wasn't feeling it anymore and didn't want to participate after arriving at the arena. So I was sitting at the bench, and some of Kim's people came down from the stands in black suits. They came directly to me and were like, "Would you come with us, please?" I'm thinking I'm going to jail, that I did something in America. Rodman was led by the men up into the stands to sit at the tables overlooking the court. He sat down. all of a sudden you hear this big roar. I'm thinking the fans stood up and turned around toward me, and I'm looking around like, great. I'm thinking they're clapping for me. I start waving and stuff like that. I look over to my left, and this little short guy comes out. Kim Jong-un was the short guy Rodman was referring to. 20,000 people were applauding the leader of their country. Rodman said people were crying and clapping their hands seeing Kim. He said, "I've never seen 20,000 people get so emotional. People were clapping and crying." Despite all the commotion and thunderous applause in the arena, the North Korean leader approached Rodman and sat down next to him. "I still don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know why the hell I'm up here." He started to talk to me about my basketball. They communicated through an interpreter. Kim started by asking how Rodman was doing. Everyone that initiated the move to send Rodman to North Korea knew that Kim Jong-un was a huge basketball fan, except for Rodman himself, of course. Kim was a Chicago Bulls fan, for which Rodman played 3 seasons, and Rodman said, "I don't even know this guy. Still, we're sitting here having a conversation like I've been knowing this guy for a long time. We got in depth with Chicago and about the Bulls." Then he broke out this question. He said, "Dennis, one day I would love to come to America. Would you take me?" Dennis asked him why. He said, "I really want to go to Madison Square Garden and watch a basketball game." The New York Times described the pictures of Kim Jong-un and Rodman after the exhibition match as some of the strangest sights in the history of accidental American diplomacy. Shane Smith, the founder of Vice Media, who was filming the documentary of the event, told the paper, apparently he had a blast at the game, so he invited them back to his home for a party, and they had a grand old time. Speeches were made, Dennis made a very nice one, and they were met with rounds of applause. Kim told Rodman that he hoped this would improve North Korean-American relations, which had been strained at the time due to a recent nuclear missile test. After that event, Rodman declared in several interviews that the dictator was his friend for life and a great guy, and he suggested that then-President Barack Obama call Kim on the phone. In May 2013, Rodman tweeted, "I'm calling on the Supreme Leader of North Korea, or as I call him, Kim, to do me a solid and cut Kenneth Bae loose." Kenneth Bae was a Korean-American Christian missionary who was detained after crossing the border, which he was sentenced to 15 years of hard labor. He was eventually released, thanking Rodman for his intervention. He's also thought to have been involved in the release of Otto Warmbier, an American college student who had been imprisoned in North Korea in 2016 on a charge of subversion. But just a few months later, Rodman visited his buddy Kim once again, telling reporters that he planned to try to bridge a gap with Americans and North Korea, while simultaneously insisting that he was no diplomat and that his goal was to train North Korean players and establish a league there. "I want to talk about basketball," he said. Rodman traveled to North Korea 3 additional times over the next year, and even brought ex-NBA players with him on one occasion for an exhibition game. While he was enjoying the trips and his new friendship with Kim, those trips weren't received the same way in the United States. It wasn't necessarily the trips themselves that got him into trouble, but rather how he described them in interviews. "I love him. I think he's awesome," Rodman said about Kim following one trip, and the propaganda in America wants everyone that's American to say only negative things about the North Korean leader. The backlash was all about the way Dennis vocalized and verbalized it in several interviews. The other problem was that he was drunk in several of the interviews. It was the last trip in January 2014 when he brought other former NBA players with him that pushed it a bit over the edge. Rodman erupted at an Italian journalist and then screamed at CNN's Chris Como live on-air days later. On that trip, Dennis was on a bender to end all benders. That was the lowest of the low. Nothing has been that bad. The CNN interview with Dennis Rodman sitting with his all-star teammates in a room in Pyongyang, North Korea, turned into a yelling exhibition when Chris Como's questions regarding the nature of his presence in North Korea angered him. The meltdown occurred after a series of stern questions from the show's host, who wanted to know exactly why Rodman and his all-star team would travel to the country to play an exhibition game for Kim Jong-un's birthday. This turned hostile quickly as Cuomo pressed Rodman for details on how he justifies entertaining such an evil man who recently executed his own uncle and continues to hold American citizen Kenneth Bae hostage without apparent cause. You've got the basketball game coming up. Tell me, given the situation in the country where you are right now, why do you believe this is a good idea? Rodman answered, "It's a great idea for the world," and added, "Why? Because I love my friend." Cuomo continued his line of questioning, pressing, asking if Rodman would use his friendship with the North Korean dictator to help in the release. At this point, Rodman's anger bled into the conversation. "Do you understand what Kenneth Bay did in this country?" Rodman said. "You tell me, why is he held captive?" "I don't give a damn." Rodman continued. "I don't give a rat's ass what the hell you think." The interview continued with Rodman speaking somewhat in circles and ended with Cuomo reminding the men of the situation in the country and wishing them a safe trip home. Rodman infamously led the crowd at the arena gathered to watch the game between North Korean players and retired NBA stars in singing happy birthday to Kim, who was in attendance. He even appeared to bow to Kim during that event. Rodman checked into a rehab facility 1 week after that trip. The death threats that he and his family were receiving, Rodman said, had gotten out of control. In his eyes, though, Rodman hadn't really done anything wrong. "I was sitting there contemplating every day. What the hell did I do wrong? I thought I was just trying to break bread and try to be humble and peaceful to this country. Then all of a sudden, they put this stuff on my head in the blink of an eye. I was just all by myself, and I had nobody to turn to." President Donald Trump met with Kim Jong-un in Singapore in 2018, becoming the first sitting U.S. president to meet with the leader of North Korea. The summit was, in a way, a validation of Rodman's efforts. All the heat he took for meeting with the dictator had finally opened the door for dialogue between the two countries. Rodman, of course, made his trip to Singapore too. While he didn't meet with either leader in an official capacity, he appeared to be on top of the world, as evident in an extremely emotional interview with Cuomo once again on CNN. "I kept my head up high, brother. I knew things were going to change. I knew it. I was the only one. I never had no one to hear me. I never had no one to see me. But I took those bullets. I took all that. Everyone came at me, and I'm still standing. Today is a great day for everybody." He said on CNN that Trump's secretary reached out to him to thank him. Rodman doesn't feel he received any credit for helping move things along to that summit. "I told everyone that Trump is going to do this, and you guys didn't believe me. Then when Trump did it, you guys praised that dude. That's what effed me up. I know he's the effing president, but damn, he wasn't even going to get invited if I hadn't even brought awareness to it." So now the president wants to get all the praise for the fact that, "Oh shoot, I just broke bread with North Korea." No, Mr. Trump, I did. During the interview with CNN, Rodman openly cried as he recounted his journey. "I'm so happy," said Rodman, wearing a Make America Great Again hat and a black t-shirt promoting Potcoin, the company sponsoring his trip. "I said to everybody the door will open. It's amazing, when I said those things, when I went back home, I got so many death threats, and I believed in North Korea. I couldn't even go home. I had to hide out for 30 days. But I kept my head up high, brother. I knew things would change." Trump did meet with Kim a third time briefly, and even crossed the border into North Korea, becoming the first sitting president to do so. And after everything, Dennis Rodman is just happy that the dialogue was started, even if he had to endure a lot to get there. "Trump never mentioned me. He mentioned everybody else that had something to do with it. But he didn't mention me at all, which I didn't give a damn. Everyone knew what really happened. But I'm just happy with the fact that they actually talked. That's all I wanted." North Korea loves Dennis Rodman, and he loves them. He brought basketball, he brought celebrity, he brought eyes on them, he brought his superstardom. He's shown them nothing but love and appreciation, to which they've done the same. And for someone throughout his career who has loved not only being in controversy, but being praised and in the limelight, this was a match made in heaven. Dennis Rodman has gone to North Korea a total of 5 times, and every time both Kim and Rodman have been photographed together, and they seem to have a great time.